Elaine Harper never thought she'd end up like this. 69 years old, sitting on a chipped bus bench with only a handbag, a coat far too thin for the November wind, and a heart cracked in ways words couldn't describe. Her fingers trembled. In her lap, not from age but from the sudden cold that came not from outside but from within. She sat on the edge of that cracked blue bench like it might disappear if she leaned back too far. Like she might disappear. She glanced back one last time at the grand white brick house at the end of Rosehill Lane, 3 stories tall, trimmed, hedges, freshly painted shutters, her house, her garden, her laughter once in the upstairs window, or it used to be. Now it belonged to her adopted son, Jeremy, who used to crawl into her bed after a nightmare and ask her if monsters were real. Jeremy, who used to fall asleep on her shoulder on long car rides and call her Mommy in the sleepy voice that melted her soul. Jeremy, who just an hour ago looked her in the eye and said, "You can't stay here anymore. This is my house now." Elaine had stood in the hallway with her bag already half zipped. She hadn't cried. She hadn't begged. She only asked once, softly, "Are you sure, Jeremy?" He didn't answer right away, just stood there, arms folded, avoiding her eyes. Behind him, Lacey stood stiffly near the staircase, pretending not to listen, but she was always listening, always watching. Finally, Jeremy said, "You'll be more comfortable somewhere else. You need care, structure." "Where would that be?" Elaine asked. "There's a place down off Bellevue," he said. "I looked it up. They have a nurse and everything. I don't need a nurse," Elaine whispered. He shrugged. Elaine looked at him a moment longer. There was no love in his eyes, only exhaustion, discomfort, embarrassment. She zipped the bag the rest of the way, walked up the stairs slowly, folded her nightgown, packed her brush. One photo in a small silver frame. Jeremy as a child, arms wrapped around her neck. She left it on the dresser, and then she walked out. The wind was brutal outside. It cut through her coat like paper, sliced through the grey knit scarf she'd worn since last winter. She walked to the corner bus stop without looking back until the very last second, when the house was nearly out of sight. She didn't cry. Her eyes burned, but she didn't let them spill. The bus arrived. She climbed in with quiet effort, swiped her old pass, and sat in the 3rd seat back. She didn't know where to go. Not really, but her feet knew. Her heart knew. She didn't go toward Bellevue. The bus rolled away from the rich houses, from trimmed lawns and glass-paneled garages, into the old part of town. She passed the bakery where she used to buy Jeremy lemon tarts, the library where he got his first card, and the movie theater where they saw Finding Nemo on a rainy Tuesday. She got off near the corner of Ash and Brookside, where ivy climbed, the walls of a tall red building that smelled like history and dust and burnt coffee. She walked up the stairs, her knees stiff but determined, and knocked on the old green door with peeling paint. It creaked open after a long pause. A small woman with wiry grey hair and thick glasses peered out, blinking in surprise. "Elaine," she said, voice uncertain. Elaine managed a thin smile. "Hi, Margot." Margot's face transformed. "Oh my God, come in, you're freezing." Inside was warm, lived in, cluttered in the way that only love and time could do. Piles of books, an old record player, the faint smell of cinnamon and paint. "I thought you were living with your son," Margot said, pouring tea into 2 mismatched cups. "I was," Elaine said, wrapping her hands around the warm porcelain. She didn't elaborate. Margot didn't push. Old friends don't need full explanations. The silence between them was soft, not awkward. Elaine looked around. "Still painting?" "Not as much," Margot said. "The hands aren't what they used to be." Elaine gave a sad little smile. "Nothing is." They sat a while, sipping quietly. The clock ticked steadily on the wall. Outside, a dog barked, somewhere. A siren moaned faintly in the distance, then Elaine reached into her handbag. From a hidden pocket, she pulled a worn envelope. She set it gently on the table. Margot raised an eyebrow. "What's this?" Elaine opened it. Inside was a single folded document and a black key card with a gold chip. She slid them out carefully. Margot stared. "What are you hiding, woman?" Elaine exhaled through her nose as if letting go of a secret she'd held in her chest for too long. "A little something I never told anyone." Margot leaned forward. "I'm listening." 15 years ago, Elaine had received a letter from a law office in Massachusetts. Her uncle, Morris Granger, eccentric, reclusive, and mostly estranged, had passed away. He left her something, the letter said. She went in person thinking it would be old books or dusty war medals. It wasn't. The lawyer had sat her down and handed her a folder marked "Confidential." Inside were dozens of papers, printouts, and legal statements, patent shares, tech investments, offshore accounts, quiet holdings in companies with long, unpronounceable names. She stared at the total line. 9.5 million. She had nearly fainted. Back then, Jeremy was just entering college. She thought about telling him, about sharing everything, but then she watched him for a few months, the way he rolled his eyes at her advice, the way he slammed doors when asked to take out the trash, the way he told her, "You don't get it. You're just a waitress." So she said nothing. She met with an advisor, set up trusts, anonymous accounts, quiet investments, and lived simply. "I didn't want it to change him," she told Margot. "I wanted to see if he would grow into a man with love in his heart, not one who thought money was everything." Margot blinked. "So, you've been sitting on $9.5 million all this time?" Elaine nodded. "It wasn't. For me, it was never meant to be." Margot stared at her friend in awe. "So what now?" Elaine smiled quietly. "Now I give it to people who won't kick their mothers out." 2 weeks later, Jeremy stood in his kitchen sorting mail. A cream-colored envelope caught his attention. Inside was a formal invitation, gold trim, elegant font. "You are cordially invited to the reading of the Granger Harper Trust estate." Jeremy's brows furrowed. "What the hell is this?" Lacey walked over, glass of white wine in hand. "Who's Granger?" "My mother's uncle," Jeremy said slowly. "She mentioned him once." "Why am I getting this?" The date was next Thursday. Downtown, Harper International offices. Lacey shrugged. "Maybe she left you something?" Jeremy frowned. "She didn't have anything, I would know." But he showed up, dressed sharply, tucked tie, polished shoes, nervous heart. He stepped into a sleek boardroom with 12 other people seated already. A lawyer in a dark suit looked up and gestured. "Mr. Harper, please have a seat." Jeremy sat. The lawyer cleared his throat. "We are here today to reveal the final terms of the Granger Harper Trust, an estate valued at $9.5 million at the time of Miss Elaine Harper's passing." Jeremy froze. Lacey's eyes went wide. "As per her final instructions, the trust will be divided as follows." Jeremy leaned forward. "To Miss Margot Green, $1 million. To St. Agnes Orphanage, $1.5 million. Jeremy clenched his jaw. "To her grandchildren, Ellie and Mason Harper, $2 million, held in trust until their 21st birthdays." He was holding his breath. "And the remaining $5 million will fund the Elaine Harper Foundation for women without families." Jeremy's heart dropped. The lawyer turned a page. "There is a recorded message for you, Mr. Harper." He pressed. "A play." Elaine's voice crackled into the room, soft and even. "Jeremy, I loved you from the moment you crawled into my lap. You were my son in every way that mattered. I gave you everything I could except wealth. I wanted to see who you'd become without it. I hoped one day you'd care for me the way I cared for you. When you asked me to leave, it broke something. In me, But it also gave me clarity. This money, Jeremy, it was never meant to be a reward for biology. It was meant to do good, to heal, to protect the vulnerable. I hope someday you understand that love is not owed. It's chosen and it's earned. Goodbye. The tape clicked off. Jeremy sat in stunned silence. Lacey whispered, "Is that it?" Jeremy said nothing. The lawyer stood. That concludes the reading. A year passed. A new building opened in the city. Warm brick walls, bright windows. A safe space. Above the door hung a plaque in honor of a mother's love, unconditional, unwavering, and priceless. Inside, a framed photo of Elaine smiled gently down at the women and children finding refuge there. Jeremy visited once. He didn't speak to anyone. He just stood in the hallway, looking at her photo, his hands trembling slightly. "I'm sorry," he whispered, but she wasn't there to hear it. And sometimes that's the real price.